everybody. Welcome to World's Best Dad Podcast. I'm Christian.
And I'm Jimmy.
This is Jimmy. And today we have an incredible guest.
A most special.
Probably the best, most special guest we've had so far on the show. No offense,
to the
other
guest.
guests. No offense.
Yeah. Lee's fantastic. He's fantastic.
Music legend.
Yeah.
Also performing legend. Entertainment legend. Let's say entertainment. Yeah. Entertainment legend.
We could say that.
Lee Ving on the podcast today.
Yeah,
Lee Ving.
Oh, come on. Thank you, guys.
Lee Ving.
Thank you for that excellent introduction. God bless you.
He's in here.
It is incredible to have you here, Lee.
Thank you very much.
This might be the last episode, too, because we can't top it, right?
I don't think we can top it.
It's fantastic.
I think when we step outside the bus, we're going to explode.
It's possible. It's possible. Big fans, Lee. Big fans.
Thank you very much.
Really big fans.
Yeah.
Well, that's what makes it possible for us to do what we love. So God bless you.
That's us. He's talking about us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Lee, how are you doing? How are things?
Finer than frog hair, man. Everything's going good.
Yeah, good.
Everything's going good.
Frog hair sounds fantastic.
Yes, sir.
So, in case our listeners and viewers aren't exactly sure who Lee is,
and if they don't, turn it off.
Just don't watch anymore.
Come on, guys. Get it together.
Lee is the singer of a band called Fear. Also, a very prolific actor.
Thank you so much.
And a veteran, a father.
Yes, sir.
And now one of the world's best dads on the team. You're on the team.
The best job that anyone could have, the whole reason we're all here is all part of that. Being a father is an honor, a labor of love, and the quintessential place to arrive during your existence.
That was good. That was nice.
Man,
that was
see
nice.
what I mean?
We
could just stop right there.
Fans.
We have so much to talk about. Right? So much to talk about. So, Lee, you are a father.
I am. I'm the proudest thing in my life.
Is just one son or multiples? Okay.
I have one son.
I saw a beautiful photo. It's older. I didn't know if it was a little security guard or your son. He had a bat. You showed me that photo. We'll put it right here.
That's my little guy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a good photo.
Yeah, he looked ready. He looked ready to take somebody out.
Well, it's important to be realistic, to realize, and to be able to defend yourself, and to ensure your own safety. Therefore, you don't have to depend on anyone else for it.
Hey,
it's true.
Not wrong.
Little fun fact.
We all kind of went through that phase a little bit as young guys, getting into
putting the martial arts in your compendium of things to do,
right?
And stuff like that. Certainly a good way to spend your time.
Learning how to wrestle and fight, and
that's right.
My sons are my 14-year-old particularly, my 10-year-old and my 14-year-old. They're really into knives right now. And our neighbors are like,
look out!
Yeah, they walk around the backyard with throwing knives and stars.
Just boy stuff, right?
Yeah,
old school boy stuff.
My
anyways.
son saved up his allowance and he bought a grappling hook on Amazon.
Whoa!
So, you never know when you might need a grappling hook.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you gonna do with that, son?
When I was a kid, I would have killed for a grappling hook. So it's awesome that your son did that.
It is pretty incredible how you can just type in what you want and it's there, and you can
same day potentially.
But when we were kids,
and your neighbors, when they see your kids playing with stars and throwing hooks and grappling machines and what have you, they all tend to respect and give you your distance.
That is true.
Or they call the police. But yes.
Either way, it's
I bought my son ninja stars once, and we went to this martial arts store, and I was letting him pick it out, and it was just the weirdest thing because when we were kids, we could have went and bought cigarettes and beer probably, but he was picking them out, and it was just he picked them. It's okay, those are the ones, and then the lady's like, well, actually, no, you need to do all this because we can't sell them to a minor. And it's just well, they're his, but I guess we'll take those. And when we got them, here you go, Dylan.
Buy them for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. Just to let you know, as soon as we get outside this door, they're my kids. They're not mine.
There's kids standing outside the martial arts store, hey, will you buy
instead of at the liquor store with beer, it's hey, buy me some stars.
Buy some nunchucks for me, man.
Here's looking up your kilt, mate.
So, Lee, you grew up in a tough
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. God bless America. Yes, sir, Bob.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about growing up in Philly and maybe
some rough stories.
Your influences growing up and maybe some dad stories if you have any. Like
shucks, man. The times were different, and you went through the morning of the abuse that the nuns would be dishing out to you, just in expectation of another day's recess where you could go out and get an X number of fights, all of which you would win, and come back in for a pleasant afternoon of schoolwork.
So you went to a Catholic school?
Catholic school.
Okay.
Right? And the nuns would be there with information for you on the subjects that you were studying, and the dust brush or the three-sided ruler to hit you with.
I was going to bring
make
that up.
sure that the message gets across.
Yeah. Are you listening, dummy?
And that you get prepared for the other things that are going to go on in life. At least I think that's what they thought they were doing. They thought that's what their motivation was, other than just maybe a good humanistic relationship with all their students that involves corporal punishment, which
abuse,
which is the foundation of all of that for them. Not necessarily for me. I didn't understand why that was included, but you want to get into that sort of thing, man. I'm ready to roll my sleeves up anytime if you are, man. You look a little different than the people I'm fighting with the hidden under all that black and blue that you're wearing, and then funny thing on your head, and that big bib that you wear in case you, God knows what, and you expect to be hit by this person. It's
so weird.
It was the business model of the time.
Yeah.
Which is so ironic because, I mean, clearly there's a lot of reports about abuse and things, but it's coming from, like, Christianity.
Religious
God
woman.
says,
A
love
religious
one
woman.
another.
Supposed to be coming
Exactly.
from. And that's where it is coming from.
Yeah.
God loves you. Whack. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Apparently it did
That's
to
how
them.
you know that he loves you, because that whack on the side of the head
That's true.
brings the message home.
Yeah.
It makes
Oh, I
it
forgot. Yeah.
impossible to ignore.
Perfect.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's heavy. So, in between fights at school, and then you head home to your brothers and
there's
sisters.
Football practice and the fights in the recess yard get you ready for football practice later on in the afternoon, or perhaps on the weekend or whenever that's going to be. And that was great. And we had a football coach who had played in the Canadian Football League, which was even rougher than the football that we were used to seeing on Sunday afternoon.
But he smelled like maple syrup. So.
That's a nice trade-off. Yeah.
Try not to get that close. So that you would know.
Yeah, exactly. So he was rough coach.
Yeah, a little tough guy. So, but that brought respect in Philadelphia. So that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I take it you were a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Absolutely.
Do you still watch football at all, or?
I still do. Sunday afternoons, you walk through the room and the football game's on, and sometimes there'll be a hotly contested, close game, which is always entertaining and that sort of thing.
Did you catch the Super Bowl when the Eagles won a couple years ago? Were you watching that one?
Yes.
That was a good one. That was
I didn't watch it.
Because they beat the Patriots. So.
That's your boy Brady.
No offense.
Yeah.
I just love it when the Patriots.
Hey, offense.
Philly and Boston, the Celtics and the Warriors and the Sixers and all that, man, over the years. It's been hotly contested, two cities.
Yeah, so the year that the Eagles won a couple years ago, I was in Philly shooting something right on Broad Street. We were shooting something the night that the Phillies won the NFC Championship, and that wasn't even winning the Super Bowl. And it was
there were riots.
It was like a war zone. The Eagles won, and then the NFC Championship, and it was crazy fireworks and people just going. It was rioting, basically,
that's funny.
and we were all involved with it. Running, woo, Eagles, yeah! But then I can't imagine when they won the Super Bowl, it must have been like unleashing the Philly agriness.
We always knew we could do this, but it just we don't get around to it all that often. Sort of thing.
We'll get to it later.
We're making excuses for ourselves as we go here.
Maybe next year.
It's time. So from school, playing football, then that led you in. What got you into music?
Yeah.
Or playing music? Or
I had always been into music. When I saw Elvis Presley on the Ed Sullivan Show, it changed my life. Everybody in the room, my grandparents and uncles and aunts, and they all hated it. God, this is disgusting.
So that's what you're like.
This is the best
This is
thing
my
since
thing now.
sliced
Yeah.
bread, man. This is the whole reason we're all here is because of this. Show appreciation. Buy the singles. Buy Hound Dog B-side. Don't Be Cruel, man. Forget about it. It was life beginning the same way it was for a lot of people. Later on in life, when the Beatles became famous, they were big hallmarks in the music business, big shifts in the paradigm view of music for huge populations, and the initiation of a music business that would be very lucrative, that everyone would aspire to, and would be a good reward for somebody that writes that hit song. And just I would get up and sing for my class in school whenever I could. And,
in between the beatings.
In between, right? They just kept you in shape.
Maybe that's why he got beat.
That the nuns would start whacking. I say, "Is that all you got? Come on, show me something."
You hit like a girl.
Yeah, that's right. You do.
And that's where Let's Have a War, the seat that Let's Have a War began.
Underneath of that habit. That's right.
Yeah.
Let's have a war. It was like, let's have a football game. Let's have a party. Let's have lunch. Let's have a war. That's what supports all this shit anyway.
It was the next evolution of lunch.
Amen.
Let's have a war. Yeah.
Jack up the Dow Jones.
Yeah.
Why not?
Amen. It's got something good for everybody.
It's the Philly way.
Yeah. Were you playing an instrument when you first saw that Elvis thing, or no, not yet?
Yes, I was
you already
already playing guitar. I started
Okay.
playing mandolin. My mother played mandolin, rest in peace, and she started me on that. And later on, I started playing guitar when I was 9, and studied for years after that. Then went through high school without studying. I had done some studying, and then took some. There were some jazz players with whom I studied, one of whom was Jim Hall. Also, may he rest in peace.
A little closer to you, just a little bit.
And Jim was playing with Miles Davis, et cetera, and a brilliant player. So to study with him personally in New York City was a hallmark of my life, and a place where I learned a lot of things for which I'll be eternally grateful.
And where you learned to hate saxophones?
That's only in humor.
Okay,
Only
good.
in humor.
Good, because Christian's got a saxophone
Well, and
in his
that's the
band.
thing. I mean, just kind of jumping ahead a little bit to starting, the band Fear and getting interested into punk rock. I mean, going from studying with these amazing jazz players to then.
Well, and I had been in a band in New York called Daybreak, and we were just across town from a band called Dreams, Michael Brecker's band.
Which are both really positive sounding bands, like Daybreak, Here Comes the Sun.
Yes.
And Dreams, it's like
Yeah.
clouds,
Yes, absolutely. It was a more uplifting time, subject-wise.
So instead of Let's Start a War, Let's Start a Friendship.
Yes.
Yes, one of their songs. Yeah.
Let's have a loving relationship.
Yes. Let's be pals.
So Michael and I had been in bands together before. I was in a blues band in Philadelphia called Sweet Stave and Chain. I was the harmonica player and lead singer. Michael Brecker lived in Philadelphia too, and was friendly with Danny, the leader of Sweet Stave and Chain. So when we'd play at the Second Fret or someplace like that, Michael would come and sit in. We'd play the Electric Factory. Michael would come and sit in. So this was very cool. Now, Michael's a brilliant saxophone player, as everyone knows by now, and also can play Junior Walker better than Junior could. God bless him. And so it was a thorough joy when he'd come and sit in with us. And it was also interesting that later on I would wind up in one band across town in New York City and Michael in another. So we were competitive. We remained competitive over the years. and it was an honor to have him in the band, absolutely. And the band was very good. And living in New York, there was no lack of skilled jazz players.
And right around about what time was this? Like what year?
1972, 1971, 1970, about 1969 we moved to New York from Philadelphia. Sort of got chased out of Philly.
The band moved, or your family moved?
The band
The
moved.
band moved, yeah.
And and I relocated to New York
The
City.
nuns pushed him out.
Sweet Stave and Chain wound up opening for Cream at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, which was our high point. And I think Michael sat in and played with us that night. Michael Brecker did on several
amazing.
songs.
That's amazing.
So
Ginger Baker and wow.
Yes, it was
up
a
close.
unbelievable night. And they weren't together for all that long. Cream were not.
Right.
So it was great to have had the opportunity to play a show with them, Eric Clapton, et cetera, et cetera. It was really something. And then to move to New York where jazz rules. Michael already had a reputation for himself in New York among the jazz players. And so there was no end of that music to be heard. And I was in a band that had a lot of that influence. And then several more bands. And then before you know it, there became this thing. I had moved to California already. And a friend of mine said, there's this club called The Mask in Hollywood. I went down there last night, man. You got to go see this. It's way different than anything you've seen before. Go check this out. Brendan Mullen, rest in peace, has this great club where all these bands that I had not really heard of yet, except for the Sex Pistols, and that's where the bands who were doing this kind of thing were playing. So I thought, man, what a great idea. I'll hire some great players, not brand new players, not uneducated players, not unskilled players, but extremely skilled players, and play this crazy music and take over. Release a single, have a big hit. We'll be the punk rock Beatles.
Yeah.
So Fear did it and became, as best you could expect, the punk rock Beatles.
What were the bands that you went and saw at the Mask that night? The ones that were like kind of showcasing what this thing was. Do you remember?
Yes. The Controllers, the Gears, Black Randy and the Metro Squad, the Screamers, the Weirdos, X.
Wow,
Who'd have thunk?
What a lineup!
And there, forgive me for not mentioning names that were prominent that I should have mentioned, but that was a pretty good cross section of the ilk at the time. And so I put together the Fear band starting around that time, and then wound up moving to New York shortly after that.
After starting Fear in
No.
LA.
No. I moved to California shortly after. No. I moved to California first, and then the punk rock band started.
Right.
And so it was very cool to have come from traditional mainstream. Well, blues bands aren't mainstream necessarily.
Well, completely different though from Fear.
Completely different than every other musical scene that had ever happened, and you'd have to give it that.
Was the Sex Pistols like one of the first punk bands that you heard, and that kind of got you intrigued, or what was that?
I was hearing it on the radio, which was pretty strange for punk rock anything at the time, and they were getting airplay, and they were coming to town to play. They were the Sex Pistols. And so
locally in Los Angeles,
yes,
probably KROQ, like Rodney on the Rock. Maybe they were playing. KROQ was playing some of that early
was
punk
playing
stuff.
Fear.
Yeah. I remember.
Did.
That's where I heard you guys first. It was on KROQ.
We got that on the radio by showing up at KROQ with many 6-packs of beer, a bottle of Jack Daniels, and an afternoon with nothing to do but hang out in Daryl Wayne's studio office, give the owners of the station a severe case of agina, and just having a, generally speaking, good time.
Yeah. Dressed as nuns.
Yeah.
We came to the studio with a copy of our single, I Love Living in the City, A-side, B-side, Now You're Dead. Daryl Wayne was DJ that day. We sort of knocked on the door and said, hey, Daryl, can we come in?
Yeah.
I had spoken to him
gifts.
on the phone. He said, we have beer.
Yeah.
We have beer. Daryl said, come on in.
That'll open most doors, yes.
So 15, 20 minutes into our visit, the chair that Daryl was sitting in and the microphone he was speaking on to the population of Los Angeles was empty. He was out in the studio somewhere doing something. So I decided I would jump into the chair and say, hey, folks, this is not Daryl. Welcome to KROQ, the studio and station that plays fear, punk rock in Los Angeles. Can you hear that? Can you hear me, folks? Knock on the microphone if you can hear me. Okay, good. That's great. Okay.
Amazing.
So the afternoon went sort of like that, but pretty soon everybody's very drunk. People are passing out, and it was a complete, total success.
Yeah. So Cloud of Judgment got you guys in there.
Yeah. One thing that when as a kid, when you discover punk rock, you rock and roll, you don't really realize what bands' talent level is, and you just said you didn't want to find players that didn't know how to play. You wanted to find the best players you could find.
That's right.
It took me a while to figure that out. That when I'm listening to Fear, like the stuff that you guys were doing was so much more complicated than every other band.
Yes.
And as a kid, you don't really understand that.
Right. It was on purpose, absolutely, our approach to take unfair advantage from the very beginning. That was, the competition was non-existent, so this is a clear field. This our what to do was plain as day. Just write stuff that you like and love, and have it played excellent, and get your bank deposit slips ready to go, Bubba.
Well, if you're going to be the Beatles at punk,
that's right. Be ready for all the merchandising and all that stuff. For your bobbleheads, and then along the way, there
eventually became a Fear bobblehead.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I have one.
Adam Age Industries would be happy to supply you with.
Yes. Click here, folks.
Yeah.
There's a link. Get your bobblehead.
Or get yourself a Fear shirt. My God, that shirt you've worn every day for the last 20 years must have done its job by now. Get yourself a new T-shirt.
Yeah, your mom's tired of doing the old laundry.
And it's 2020. Can't you afford a haircut?
To Adam Age Industries, to Robert R.C. at Adam Age Industries, and buy some Fear merchandise, folks. Keep our oars in the water.
That's right.
Yes.
Keep rowing. The Viking ships.
Yes, of Fear.
The Viking ships of fear.
Yeah.
So, and then around this time, this is like late 70s, early 80s. John Belushi discovered the band Fear, and he's also a bluesman. And
absolutely,
and
blues brother.
He is a blues brother, but he was a blues brother. Sorry.
So we had heard this that John was a punk rock fan. And so somehow we got in touch with him, and John and I began speaking, and pretty soon he's out in California to visit. And so Spit, our drummer, and I go to meet him at On the Rocks. So we have a whole bunch of beers. We talk about things that we might like to do and this and that. And before you know it, John gets us on Saturday Night Live.
Continue.
And Saturday Night Live, unaware of the style of music that we play or that it's any different than any other
like the
band.
Beatles and punk. What could go wrong?
Conservative. This is well-meaning. This is good-intentioned. This is, how would you say, this is extremely beneficial, very heady, educational, and charitable. That's the word I was looking for.
Charitable. Yes.
A charitable music form.
Yes.
So please come and see it.
Everyone's invited to come up on stage and jump back off the stage.
So we fly to New York. We show up for the afternoon's rehearsal and shakedown for the show that evening.
The pat down.
And
Played a little Elvis. You
John
threw him off the
had-
scent.
Yeah, your sound check was.
invited some 100 or 150 authentic, if there is such a thing, punk rockers from Washington, D.C. to come and be audience guests on the show, to be the people that hang around the front of the stage like you would see in any ordinary punk rock show. And so the first half of your musical guest on Saturday Night Live, you play two musical sequences, one in the first half hour and one in the second half hour. First half hour was done sans audience, no artificial or new invited by John audience.
And what song did you guys
just
play the
the
first
crowd.
time? Do you remember what song you played?
We played. I don't remember the first two that we did that were in the first half, but in the second half we did "Let's Have a War" and "I Love Living in the City." We got through "I Love Living in the City," okay, although lots of the kids were up on the stage with us, but that didn't matter to us. But Mr. and Mrs. Missouri in Oklahoma in the audience, who had paid and bought tickets at Saturday Night Live, thought they were going to die.
Fainting.
Their lives were fleeting before them right here as we speak. So we got the first song out of the way during the second half with the audience. Then we got to do "Let's Have a War." In the middle of "Let's Have a War," the kids are all over the stage and they're everywhere in the studio. And I drop the microphone. One of the kids picks the microphone up, puts it to his mouth, and screams. Let me preface what's about to happen.
We'll get ready
to
with the
this.
buzzer. Yeah.
Brandon Tarketoff, who is president of NBC Television Network, at the time, is watching Saturday Night Live at home with his wife. So we're doing "Let's Have a War." I drop the microphone. One of the kids picks the microphone up, puts it to his mouth, and screams, "F New York!" And the 15-second fail-safe device does not work. That goes out to the world. The whole world hears that word coming off of the stage of Saturday Night Live at NBC in the Rockefeller Center with Brandon Targetoff losing it
In bed watching it. Yeah.
just losing it by miles. He's on the hotline, and I'm told that he was saying, "Hello, do you know who this is? This is Brandon. Get them off. I'll have all your jobs. Do it now." So they tried to get us off, and we continued and played the song. It went down beautifully. We thanked everybody, Mr. and Mrs. Mainstream America, and all our punk rock fans invited by John, and thanked John, and marched off. And the camera went to John. And John just looked at the camera and gave the camera that eyebrow like they're both able to do, right? And he was doing it big time. John was so happy because he had just asked the show for more money, and they refused. If there was anyone on the cast of the show who at the time was Saturday Night Live by themselves, it was John.
Yeah.
So they misread the situation by refusing to give him a raise. He deserved it. They should have given it to him. So, but instead, he got us on the show, so he felt vindicated and gave the old eyebrow to the camera like he was a happy camper. So I felt good about that part of it for John.
Yeah,
But,
that's funny.
That's incredible.
so it was a history-making event.
So he planned that whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, you want to give me more money?
Yeah.
Hey,
I'll bring my friends on the show. Is that
Let's do
okay?
this.
Have I got something for you
Yeah.
guys?
Let's have a war.
Hey,
Yeah.
Brandon, check this out.
I think New York's All Right might have been in the first set, right?
It was definitely
On the second.
in
one- you played one of
we
them.
couldn't have done Saturday Night Live without playing that
New
Yeah, of
song.
York's
course.
All Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to play that.
It's a staple.
One. That's
Yeah.
a staple for
The
sure.
legend has it that Ian MacKaye was one of the
Right.
people in the audience
And
that started
also,
like
I'd heard
slam
that he's the
dancing and
one
stuff.
who said that on the microphone. I'm not sure that that's true,
Yeah.
but to slip into the assumption of credit for an act that was major is not hard to understand.
Right. I think he was there. And
Yeah.
I heard.
I don't think he was the one on the mic
A
though.
couple of the Beastie Boys were there, and a lot of like really, the next generation
Yes.
of musicians and punks and Very, very influential. That was a very seminal moment.
Taylor Swift was there.
Yeah, she's a huge fan
She's
of you
huge.
guys.
She's
She
huge.
also hates Christmas. Yes.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh.
But Taylor, I wish you had been there. I would have loved to have met you.
Yeah,
And,
it's not too late.
Wouldn't mind still.
I could see a Taylor Swift leaving like a bluesy song, like kind of a return.
I would
Maybe
love
a little
maybe
honky
she
tonk, a
could
little
redo your
honky.
album.
She's extremely talented
Yeah.
and very beautiful.
Yeah,
Sweetheart, right here.
that's
I
true. But there is a very thinking about your influences musically. Like you definitely can hear it in your songs, and even in your vocal styles is very bluesy. You know, the beginning of Beef Bologna, or
Thank
you know, the songs where you can hear that.
My baby. Tony man, low down, skagadoo, child.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Look out.
That's right.
Yes.
That's incredible. And then punk rock is this thing that doesn't really catch on into the mainstream for
That's right.
for years and years, right?
And not ever completely.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Not wholeheartedly with open arms was it ever accepted.
And probably the closest bands were like Nirvana and those bands that broke around that time, because they were
ones that had socially redeeming value, that had lots of music in them that would remind you of other kinds of music. It just wasn't plain old punk rock, or something that was like you never heard before, which is what we had aspired to be. We didn't want to be plain old punk rock. We want it to be something you never heard before. But something you never heard before is not going to guarantee you're ushered into the radio business via, radio records and all that sort of thing. It's not a guarantee.
It's true.
But it did get to the SNL slot.
It keeps you from being lumped in with the ilk and not being given credit for the simple, unique thing that you're presenting.
Right. Which I think that era of music, the late 70s, early 80s, especially the underground stuff, every band was so doing something so unique. No one was trying to sound like each other. Everyone was trying to sound like something totally different. Like,
Right.
think about, Fear or the Screamers. Like, those are two totally different bands. Or
Right. But
Black Randy is totally different.
There wasn't really, it didn't seem like a whole sector of the music listening public that was interested in punk rock.
No.
Even.
Yeah.
It was even smaller than that. So it was perfect for us. We get to take part in a scene that maybe could break, that the Sex Pistols were already breaking,
Right.
selling some records here. And then I thought maybe we'd get in behind something like that. We could take part in that business machine, and that would be really cool. But the whole punk rock thing never did catch on. And something else was right behind it, and something else was right behind that. It was hard to compete with all the record company money being spent on promotion. And but it gave us a start.
Yeah.
It got us on Saturday Night Live, and we have 4 or 5 albums out, all of which sell. And so the dream is coming to fruition.
And a bobblehead.
And the bobblehead.
But also around that time, I think you got recognized for not only your musical talent, but just who you were, kind of being a tough guy. You got hired to do a lot of acting stuff, right?
That's right.
You were in a lot of movies around
That's
that.
right. A lot. I got to play a lot of bad guys, a lot of criminals, a lot of guys that would get in fights, things I knew a lot about.
Yeah. A lot of guys at the nuns would smack
That's
around.
called, that's
That's
called
right.
typecasting.
Yes.
And
At
I
its best.
said, bring it.
Yeah.
Typecast me all day long. Means
you-
I'm working. Means I'm putting checks in the bank.
Yeah.
Typecast me, man. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
You also got to play a cable guy as well in the
I
wildlife.
did.
Right?
I did.
That was a
And I
fantastic
got
movie.
to some significant movie parts. Flashdance, Streets of Fire, the Walter Hill film
Clue.
with
Yeah.
Michael Pare, Willem Dafoe, Clue with Madeline Kahn, Eileen Brennan, Tim Curry. Those were all great films, and Tommy Lee Jones, Black Moon Rising. I got to be in that movie. Flashdance was no end of fun, giving Jennifer Beals a hard time all day long. Just kidding. Not. But it was really cool to have these two careers going at the same time. Was very cool. Punk rock and the American film business, they have nothing in common. Absolutely zero. One doesn't want to know about the other. One won't give a break to the other. They want to be separate. Yeah. So to have those things both to continue to antagonize each other, as it were, it was really cool.
And being one of the pioneers of the punk scene, you definitely had a pass. Like, no one ever was like, hey, look at Lee, he's sold out, or whatever. They were just like, wow, Lee is in this movie, this is amazing. And at least that's what, growing up in LA, because I grew up in LA, you would appear in a movie and we would be like, oh my gosh, Lee's in this movie, rad. You know, we were excited about it. No one was like, oh, he's sold out.
Exactly.
Even though that's essentially what he wanted to do. He wanted the paycheck, right?
Of course. Amen.
Why not?
I had a wife and a kid and a mortgage.
That's right.
What the hell? Who doesn't need money in that boat?
So speaking of the kid or your son, like being a dad, like around this time, it's crazy and it's punk rock, but then weaving in time to be a dad, like
absolutely to make sure that it's gotten to bed on time, the homework's done.
Yeah, you don't need no cats in the cradle going on. That's for certain.
Does my little guy need some extra lunch money or anything whatsoever in this whole wide world? If my little guy needs it, I'll go out and get it right goddamn now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good dad right there. That's good dad.
That's the world's best dad right there. That's awesome. And where does your son live now? Is he here in California or?
Yes, in California. Mm-hmm. That's as close as I'll say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need any stalkers.
Does your son have kids as well? Are you a super dad or a grandfather, as they say?
I
have
grandchildren, and I'm the luckiest guy in the whole wide world because of that.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I mean, imagine if, your grandfather is Lee and has the experience as Lee, like that would be amazing. Christmas times and there is Christmas and
not Christmas.
We don't know.
Christmas and birthdays and all that. It's hard to keep track and not overlook something to do and all that sort of thing. And that's I spend a good deal of time making sure that that's all airtight.
Yeah,
and gives me no end of joy.
One thing that's definitely changed with punk rock, the whole idea was to agitate and provoke people and evoke a response. You know?
That's right.
And so a lot of things that you said in your songs are offensive, but on purpose. Like, and I think back then we could kind of realize that like this is kind of offensive for offensive's sake, and it's tongue in cheek almost.
Yes.
And nowadays
it was the new reach for the bank. It was the new approach that was just as financially oriented as any of the others had been, only maybe more properly placed because there wasn't that much freedom. The punk rock scene was smaller, right?
Right.
And but it lent a platform, which is what we were looking for. And we were able to use it in a way that left us being distinguished from the other ilk that didn't know how to play or wasn't familiar with music, but wasn't going to let that stop them. And I applaud that. That, of course, you don't want to let anything stop you. But if you can, then you want to do. And that's what our intentions were, and we were successful. We got that delta of not knowing jack shit to being very skilled right in place for ourselves. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted the scene to begin to look like us, not us look like the scene.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, it's interesting to hear because I think, other bands have different motivations. Like,
sure, they want it to look just like the scene.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's
they're like, this is what you have to do.
Yeah. That's a short shot. That's not quite getting all the way. I wanted to take the diminished 11ths, the flat nines, and the 13th chords, and put them in there in such such a way that it just seemed like the normal pain, suffering, and cacophony that goes on in humans' lives with
Catholic school.
with how would you say with a sonic note that's different, with a musical form that's different, with phrases that hadn't been heard before due to combinations of things that had just been experimented with being put together, all of that stuff. I don't think that was on everybody's radar screen, but it was on ours, and it got us where we wanted to go.
Yeah,
Right.
it clearly worked. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, your experiences and wanting to, I guess, illustrate those experiences through the music, like not just what you're saying, but also the actual chords and notes that you're playing.
Yes.
You wanted to kind of give that feeling. And
Sure.
did any of those feelings come from any of your experiences, maybe being in the military at all?
No, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
You wake up in the middle of the night and you realize what's going on around you, where you might be sent at some point quickly. In 1967, 1966, where might they have sent you?
Yeah.
What was going on in 1966 and 1967?
Yeah, not good stuff.
And if you were in a military, where might you be sent and what might happen to you? So all of a sudden, the world's not such a fuzzy, warm, charitable, happy place to be.
It's Vietnam, kids, if you're trying to do math.
Yeah. Did you served in Vietnam then?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
But around that time was
But
heavy.
But to be involved at that time was earth-shattering, man. It was like,
No, it's insane. I couldn't imagine
just the
being that age group and potentially having to go to
and to have to
war.
have that on your mind
Yeah, absolutely.
for that length of time,
Yeah,
just wondering, being scared shitless and just wondering.
yeah. Yeah, because you assume you're going over there and you're probably not coming home.
Amen.
Yeah, so we can change the subject.
Yeah,
we
let's
go
change
back to
the
those
subject.
nuns,
Let's go back to the
PTSD of the Catholic school, right?
That's way better.
Remember those triangular shaped? If you took this ruler and cut it in half, you would see a triangle on the end of it.
Oh yeah.
That scale affords you extra measuring parameters or something by virtue of these extra flat surfaces on the thing. But what it also afforded the nuns was something sharp and heavy to hit you with.
Yeah.
There's not always a dust brush around when you need it from the nun standpoint.
Right.
Yeah.
And baseball bats are a little too obvious.
Right.
Bruises are too big with
Guns
the
were
baseball
not
bat.
part of the program
Yeah.
at that point.
At that point.
Yeah.
Nuns didn't believe in guns.
Nuns and guns.
They still haven't gotten onto
Yeah.
the gun yet.
Yeah.
God help us if they do.
Right.
Yeah.
It flows so well too. Nuns with guns.
Yeah, Nuns with
Why-
Guns.
why
That's
do
a
they-
great Quentin Tarantino movie, potentially.
That is a Quentin
There's
Maybe
a
you
Tarantino
could be in
song
it.
in there
Oh,
somewhere.
Lee.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Maybe
petition
somebody better put
Yeah.
that together.
Yeah, that's the next
Quentin,
Fear
if you're
album.
listening,
Nuns
Yeah.
with guns.
Nuns with
Yeah.
guns. It's about time, right?
There you go.
Nuns with guns. Thank God. Deliver us from evil. Amen.
Well, you guys are working on a new record right now. You have new music coming out.
Always.
First new music in
Yes,
a
first
while.
new music in several years, and there will be a broad spectrum of antibiotic style messages.
Like Nuns with Guns.
Taking on Big Pharma.
In all
Yeah.
of them. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I want to go back a little bit. Was it 93-ish? You guys did a reunion tour and you guys played at the Palladium. I was at that show and there was a riot afterwards.
Right. And I also was at a show in Orange
Yeah.
at a place called Viva Las Vegas where there was a really terrible skinhead riot that happened. Which I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
It seemed like for a while there was always trouble following you around. And we always were bummed out by that because we just wanted to go see you play.
Well, that's the funny.
Right.
At the Palladium, the first song you guys started going, someone lit off a fire extinguisher. I don't know if you remember that, but it like cleared the whole stage and it ruined the first couple rows at the Palladium as well.
Right.
But you guys eventually came back out, which
Yeah.
was nice.
Well, we're not going anywhere. They're not chasing us out of anywhere. They ain't goddamn handing us our hat and asking us to go fuck anywhere, man, because we ain't going, man.
Yeah.
We come to stay. That's the whole bit. That's the whole kit and caboodle right there. You think you... Well, we'll let that go for another time.
To be continued.
Yes. Yeah, but for a while there, it just seemed like there was just a bunch of hooligans that wanted to start trouble at your shows.
Right,
and
right.
which, from my
I
perspective...
wanted them to continue coming to the shows, man.
Yeah.
We got plenty of room for hooligans. You know, God
Right.
loves them like everybody else.
It's just when they started trying to attack you, then they got a little bit different, right? And one thing I thought was interesting, when you had an African-American player with you,
Sure.
there was all these white
Supremacist.
Nazi guys trying to
Yeah.
attack him on stage, and you stood in and you were squaring up with these guys,
Amen.
and we were like, yeah, let's go, let's help Lee,
Yeah.
and let's fight
Let's
these
have a
Nazis,
war.
yeah, let's have a war. And then it got really crazy. It got
Yeah.
crazy. So that happened, a couple shows, I'm sure. Yeah,
Right.
trouble follows sometimes.
Well, I think people had a habit of taking it a little bit too seriously
Yeah.
and forgetting that it was a musical performance and something that you would do in your leisure time to enjoy yourself and relax, not something that you would do in order to get injured or arrested.
Yeah, so it's like angry Trekkies. They're taking it a little too far, but it's like in their mom's basement.
I think
Yeah.
neo-Nazis are
Yeah.
kind of like that.
Angry Trekkies, yeah.
Because they dress up, they
Yeah,
cosplay.
exactly. Fun
and-
costumes,
Yeah.
angry. Yeah.
Saluting the flag. If you're a neo-Nazi, you can stop listening now.
Yeah.
Delete.
Let's go ahead and mute it right now. Yeah.
Well, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you with us today.
Man, thank you guys for having me down here. I've had a great time. It was a short hop from where I am up in West LA down to here, and here we are in Southern California, another boringly, unbelievably beautiful day.
I know.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, true.
So
We have it so rough here.
not
Yeah, I
only
know.
new music, but here's a question. Here's
Yes.
maybe one of our last questions we're going to ask. New acting. Is there any new roles? I know we on the Aquabat Super Show, we've been looking for the perfect role
Oh,
for
here we
you.
go with the Aquabats. Jeez.
Right, and how about you, Lee? Is there any
Yeah.
movie roles or things you've been working on lately?
You play someone angry in there, like your
I'm
other
not
roles.
working on something at the moment, but I look forward to the very next outing. I really enjoy making films and getting an opportunity to do something that I believe that gets filtered out to millions of people. It's an incredibly huge audience to have at your disposal, and one that I cherish and look forward to interacting with and delivering more fear-oriented messages to in the very near future.
Beautiful.
And you have my word on that.
Okay, so
Beautiful.
but you've played bad guys, you've played tough guys.
Cable guys.
Is there a
that's
role
right.
Yeah.
that you
with one of these? Give me a knuckle. The wildlife.
Is
the
there?
wildlife.
Yeah, the wildlife. I remember that. Chris Penn, right?
Yes.
Chris Penn, beautiful
Yeah.
Chris
Sean's
Penn.
brother.
Yeah, gone too soon. Yeah.
Is there a type of role that you would like to play that you haven't played yet? Because I mean, we've seen you play the tough guys. All. Is there like a sensitive scientist
Yeah.
or a
Yes, there's
preacher?
there's tons of roles
In Guns with Nuns.
that I'd like to play. Things that I've not had the opportunity to do yet. Things that would be slightly different than just maybe something that's looked for as a one-dimensional tough guy.
Yeah.
But I would always try to take that role and introduce more to it than just the one-dimensional tough guy. Use it as a platform to do a real character, something that would have more capability of being remembered than something that you've seen attempted before. And that's what I would like to do in whatever next film becomes the next film, because you get to reach a huge number of people, and it's it's yourself standing there being filmed. So you get to deliver the message with all the acumen you've got to bring with you to the gig. And that's what I'd look forward to doing, and one that I will do next time out.
What about, I got one.
Okay.
A sensitive, tough guy, single dad with Taylor Swift as your daughter.
Oh,
right?
That's it.
Girlfriend.
Cleaning up the girlfriend. I like where your head's at, Lee. I like where your head's at.
The older man relationship.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Hear that, Taylor? We got a roll for you.
What's in a number?
Yeah, that's true. That's
30
true.
years
I don't know
difference?
numbers. Yeah. I got a question for you. Maybe we can end on this, or maybe
Sure.
not.
Okay.
What's your beef with Christmas, Lee? Is it the naughty list? Are you on the naughty list?
Christmas.
I'm done. I think we're good.
That's all you wanted, right?
That's all I wanted.
Only kidding, folks. Only kidding.
Yeah, he loves
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And may you all get everything you asked for from Santa Claus.
Hey, well, that's a great place to end. I don't
Yeah.
think.
I don't think we get top
Here.
can't top
May
that.
there be the new Fear record
Yes,
next
please.
Christmas in your stocking.
Beautiful.
Hey,
I'll be looking forward to
we'll
mine.
get a nice wide stocking for
Yeah.
that.
Yes, sir.
For that
album?
vinyl to get in there.
One of you.
Well, before we leave, really quick,
Yes.
we have a few parting gifts for you.
Yes.
All
and
right.
that you might need. You know, there is a song called "More Beer" from Fear, and what is
Oh.
better than this
A
World's
beautiful
Best Dad
beer.
podcast to put your beverages in?
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Keep
From
it
our
cold.
friends at Igloo.
Yes.
Beer is nothing if it's not cold.
That's true,
That's
I hear.
true. I've heard. Yes. And
There's some...
okay, there's also
Yes.
some.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah, that's
Look how
it.
very
We've also
good.
That's
got-
yours, yeah.
Put this to very good use, I promise.
We've
Please,
also got
please.
a World's Best Dad podcast hat
Wow.
and a little
From our friends
drink.
at Left Coast
Keeping
Novelty.
it cooler.
Yes.
Yes,
Keeping it cool.
sir.
Just
Yes.
everything that you always needed.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And we got
And finally-
one more from our friends at Humble Maker Coffee Co. We got some cold pressed shots of coffee. 3 delicious flavors. They're beautiful friends of ours.
Wow.
They
how
helped us
very
buy this
cool.
beautiful camera that you can look at right now.
Oh.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. Actually, a little fun fact. My friend Darren, who works here now, he worked at a sunglasses company, Initium, and you did a photo shoot for them.
Yes.
Yeah, so there
I
you
still
go.
have 2 pair
So-
of Initium sunglasses. I still have
Hear that, Darren?
I still have the cloth that says Initium that you use to clean your lenses. And it works better than anything other than it works better than my shirt.
Beautiful. Bring it back, Darren. Bring it back. Well, now you got some coffee by them.
I realized
Beautiful.
the first time I cleaned my glasses that I wasn't able to see properly. They were so dirty.
So they've helped you.
I have that problem
Beautiful.
quite a bit.
So
But thanks again, Lee.
Yeah,
My
thank
pleasure,
you. Thank you.
brothers.
Yeah, appreciate
For
it.
those of you listening, tune in next time and subscribe.
sir.
And
Yeah.
for more fantastic guests like the legend,
Anything
legend.
that heralds dads to be good dads and better dads is great, very well needed, and very welcome. And I'm proud to have taken part in the show for the world's best dad,
Beautiful.
Great.
because that's
Okay.
what I aspire to.
All right, then.
And so should all dads who are very gifted and lucky aspire to being the best dads in the whole wide world. And if not, I'm going to find out where you are and come
Yeah.
visit you, Bubba.
Yeah, Guns with Nuns. Taylor Swift. Yeah, beautiful. All right.
Thank you very much,
Yeah, thank
Lee.
you, Lee.
World's best dad. World's
Pleasure
best dad.
all mine,
Yeah,
brothers.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Beautiful.
was awesome.
And thank you, Robert, for
right.
hooking this up.
Thank you, everybody. Subscribe.